Please rise for the pledge to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. Good evening, everyone. Hello. How are you doing? Gene, anything for the ambulance service? I wanted to let the board know that I had an email exchange with the chief, and he said he can come to your meeting on the 30th. Okay. Did everyone get a chance to look over the minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second.
Mr. Bill Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell. Ms. Rao. Yes. Tax collector. Any comments, Jean? There is one issue in item B. I don't know if the board members had a chance to look over this request from a taxpayer. This has to do with the receipt, the lack of receipt of the discount the period payment for the real estate taxes. I simply want me and the tax collector want some guidance from the board. Okay, so apparently that one also seems to be a mailing issue. She claims she did not receive a bill, but she does have a check from the bank that shows the check was cut. No, she did receive the bill. She ordered, remember, online banking is not an ACH. It's not an electronic withdrawal of money. It's a bank cutting a physical check. She ordered through her online banking to have the physical check cut. It showed it being withdrawn from her account. It apparently was never received. She received a notice from the county that her township payment was not received. She's in the penalty period, and she's asking for a waiver of both the penalty and the 2% discount. She made that request of the tax collector. The tax collector doesn't have that authority to waive that and pass it on to me to put on your agenda. That's right, and she had the check was cut on the 30th when that was the last day of the 2%. Correct. So no matter what the board decides on this recommendation to the public, don't do it on the last day.
Was the check cut or is that one was returned? It wasn't.
No, it was withdrawn from her account on that day. And then at some point, it got returned to the bank and they simply deposited it, I believe, in her account. If I understand her email correctly, redeposited in her account as a refund. She must not have noticed it or something, because she did not react until she got the notice that she was in the penalty. That's what I understand from that series of email. You also have your meeting on the 30th if you would think about it.
Okay, somebody has strong feelings because I'm perplexed on the fence with this one. I don't think she deserves a rebate or anything. If she waited the last day, I would say no.
Sorry, I was touching on some communications. Chief, we have it, like, postmark that you paid before? Or is
Her
there?
bank shows that it was withdrawn for a check to be cut from her online banking on April 30th. And we in administration do not receive these checks, these go to the tax.
Right, so you don't know what the post date was.
Correct, and then it was returned. If you read further in the email, it was somehow returned as a refund to her account.
Without airing too much of my own personal financial habits, I pay my sewer bill to Cumru this way. And it takes a good 8 to 9 days from the time they withdraw before Cumru gets it. They withdraw it, cut the check, then they mail it at their pace, and then it reaches. So just because it gets withdrawn from my account doesn't mean it got cashed that day. All banks are different, all credit unions are different. I'm just giving you one small thing that I deal with. But I think as somebody said, don't wait till the last day when you're doing it this way.
I think all the banks about 20 work that way, so you do need to put some leeway.
When you're paying UGI, they take it out the next business day and poof, it's gone. But they do that ACH.
Right, that's an
The
electronic.
ladies upstairs will actually, once in a while, go, hey, look, we got your check. They get a physical check.
Correct.
Here's something following the basketball here. This is not an issue of for being unaware of the bill or being like in collections, it's an issue of for not wanting the late penalty.
Correct. She says, I received a notice of not paying this bill on September 12th, which prompted me to investigate with the bank, who would only tell me the amount was refunded back to my account at a later date.
Doesn't the tax collector return your check if your check isn't the full amount?
Correct.
If the check was late and she paid the discount rate, it wasn't the full rate,
Correct,
Betsy wouldn't accept that.
but the tax collector is indicating, that there was a mail issue, a mailing to the USPS issue for this. It's, further, you probably haven't seen this series of emails. A potential recommendation for the board for this evening is to shelve this until your September 30th meeting and, take, between now and then, take a look at it. If you have any questions, you can certainly call the tax collector to get, more clarification on her comment and deal with it at your September 30th.
And this does sound like it was a known mailing issue too, from what I saw in that email. It's not like that's in dispute here. But to Gene's point, it was sent out on the 30th, so even if there wasn't a mailing issue, it would have still been a problem anyway.
Likely age.
You know, I mean, I can't speak to how Santander does that. I know on Citizens, when I go to put a bill pay in, it'll say deliver bond. And then the bottom one, it'll back it up. So basically, if I say I want it delivered by April 30th, it'll cut the check on the 22nd. Citizens does that automatically. I don't know how Santander does it there. She was never gonna make it.
The ladies tell me that, for instance, with sewer payments, when they receive when they receive payments from online bill pay, they will actually receive a stack of checks because each financial institution, no matter which one, they will aggregate the different requests for online payment. So when you do online banking and you tell your bank to cut a check for you, it's not going out right on that day. They will aggregate it with other ones going to the same place. So it's not an instantaneous transaction with bill pay.
My only question around, I forget the exact, sort of cliffs, penalty cliffs. Having attempted to pay it, I understand you would have never gotten in front of that initial cliff. I mean, but did you graduate since then into further?
Yes, So the way it works with real estate taxes, probably some of you in the audience know, for March and April through April, the bills come out March 1st. For March and April through April 30th, it is a 2% discount. And then, May and June, it is what's called a flat rate. And then after that is a 10% cut. And then at the end of the year, December 31st, the door is closed. And the next year you go into tax claim, which is the county version of delinquent tax.
So it sounds to me like whether or not she would have gotten in front of that April 30th date, she in good faith tried to pay her bill within the flat rate time frame. So my opinion is that she showed good faith trying to pay her bill at that schedule. It was not a fault of her own that let's put April 30th behind us. But by no fault of her own, it didn't get paid within the flat rate time frame. So let's just charge it a flat rate time frame, ignore any graduated penalty beyond that. Let's move on.
Let me just make sure I understand. So you're saying, not the, we're gonna effectively backdate I shouldn't say backdate, we're gonna forward it. Basically, we're not gonna give her the early discount.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
She never would have gotten that
She
anyway.
wouldn't have gotten there anyway. And what's the difference between the flat and the early? I'm sorry, it's 2% different. And
On the township portion, that you have to be careful. Remember, this is a county and township bill combined. So I already calculated for you what the flat difference would be, $237.05 for the township portion only. The county has a separate decision to make.
I mean, I think that's a fair approach, like. Yeah. We've charged her at the rate that she would have been charged should her check have gone through, which didn't, by no fault of her own.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I move to, bill her at the flat rate.
I'll second.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Baddour,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
No,
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else on tax?
No, thank you.
Public. Mr. Scott Green, you want to come forward, state your name and your address, please.
Scott Brady, address is 225 Hemlock Road. Usually, I'm sitting in the back there with most of the meetings, and I'm listening to various people who come before you. Usually with some concerns or some complaints. I'm actually here with some compliments, and that's to Bob and Mike and the Public Works Department. I don't travel all the roads in the township, but I do travel Welsh Road pretty much every day. And the job that they did as far as paving the road from Church Road up to Cedar Top Road, I think the guys did an excellent job, and I just wanted to pass that on to the board and the public, and obviously to Mike and Bob and the gentleman over there, help do that project. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is it for public. On to the departments with Chief Winchester, Police Department.
Stand up here because I'm a quick presentation. You all should have my report, my monthly report on talents. If there's any questions I can answer, let me try. As far as call volume goes, it's been quite busy with different situations that have been occurring throughout the township. But we're getting through them. Detectives are very, very busy, as well as the street officers in handling the day-to-day things. So if there's no questions, I'd like to get into a quick presentation. It won't take long, I promise you. Probably be shorter than that bill conversation that we just had.
What
I think while the chief is setting that up, I just wanted to draw the audience's attention to the scam alert flyers that are on the kiosk there from the police department about a particular type of scam that is very prevalent involving Bitcoin, saying that, you know, you're gonna be arrested, you need to pay some fee in Bitcoin, it's a scam. And I'm sure the chief can provide more information about that.
It is on our website, our Facebook page, I'm sorry. And I believe, did you put it on the website as well?
I will be, yeah.
Yeah, the bottom line is, no government agency will ever call you on the phone and tell you that, you have a fine or a warrant, or you missed jury duty, or you missed any kind of court hearing, and that you're now, liable for paying something. They will never receive or accept any payment online or over the phone. And they'll never, even if one of your loved ones is arrested, that usually comes around, those kind of scams. In Pennsylvania, you can't even go to the courthouse and give money, cash, credit card to get them out. It's gotta go to a bail bond. So keep that in mind. If anyone ever asks you about your account information or asks you for money, or tells you you'll get Google Play cards or Bitcoin, it is 100% a scam. If you have any questions, please call the police department. We can reassure you of that. And if the response from us is, well, why don't you come on in and talk to me? Chances are you might have a warrant, so. But it's a scam, so please just give us a call. And they're very convincing. They spoof the numbers. They have the names. I told a story a few years ago about an individual who came into the police station while she was on the phone with allegedly me. And the scammer was saying, this is Police Chief Madison Winchester. And I was standing right in front of her. He was very distraught, saying, no, it's me. I'm Police Chief Winchester. And the person on the phone was planning to beat me. So.
Chief, quick question there.
Yeah.
The scams we're seeing, are they spoofing Cumru Township?
No, they're spoofing the courthouse. Yeah, but they very easily, if they want to try and, I mean, we're small potatoes when it comes to that, but it's the county. Yeah, so
But sure, Andy, they could.
Yeah.
they could,
So if anybody has any doubts, call.
Yeah.
Like dial yourself.
we're down 911.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So. I just wanted to alert the public to a new style of police cars that we're gonna be deploying. We have one right now, this is it. It's not a traditional Cumru police vehicle in that it is all black and it has new graphics. So there's a few reasons why we went with this, and this happens to be our hybrid vehicle that we just bought. So that's the officers are getting used to driving that because there's no sound, there's no nothing. And how many times I watched police officers sit in that car and contemplate why the vehicle wasn't running. It's kind of funny, but so yeah, this is our new police vehicle. If you see it around, you can rate them and give you another view. They're pretty sharp. It's a sharp vehicle. So we're gonna start when we do replace our vehicles, we're gonna start going with this scheme. So you may have seen our guest here tonight, Officer Oliver, and his handler, Officer Sean Healy. And the reason why.
Why don't you come up to the front so the camera can get a look at all.
So, I just wanted to talk with the board and present an idea that was presented to the liaisons a short time ago, and with the liaisons' approval and guidance, put together this little presentation for the rest of the board and the public. Just to kind of introduce and everyone should know Officer Oliver, but really just to kind of highlight some of the impact that he's had in the community since he's been hired. So Officer Oliver was hired November
2022, and he hit the streets in January of 23. That was not by plan, but it was a great, great timing in a number of ways. And I promise you that Officer Oliver doesn't spend as much time in my office as you think, but he does spend a great deal of amount of time in my office, and he's my little buddy, so. So Officer Oliver really serves two purposes. One, he assists the police department and the community with individuals who may be dealing with a stressful situation or maybe a crisis for mental health. And the second kind of expertise that he holds is in community policing. Obviously, everybody loves Officer Oliver, everyone loves animals, and he's an immediate attraction wherever he goes. So I just put together a little quick chart which has deployments and then requested responses. Requested responses are when our officers are out in the street and they encounter a call that they feel Officer Ollie would be an impact, would be able to calm the situation and maybe help the situation. Whatever that may be, it may be an accident where there's children involved, and we'll get into some more specifics on calls. Or it could be an individual who's going into crisis with mental health. Deployments are what Officer Heatley does and Officer Ollie do on a regular basis. So he holds two dual purposes on his regular shifts. He answers calls for service. And when he's not answering calls for service, he's in the schools, he's at community events, he was at community days. That's his Super Bowl of the year, his community days. So needless to say, Officer Ollie and Officer Heatley, they put their time in when they're here at work. You come downstairs at any given after 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, and Officer Oliver's, he's got bloodshot eyes and he's ready for a nap. And Sean's just about close to it as well. But they pull double duty. I mean, they are literally working 10 hours a day. They don't have downtime. Their downtime is when they're in their squadron, basically filing and completing reports. So every time Officer Ollie and Officer Heatley go to a deployment or an event, he tracks that. We track that for him so we can report and have statistics on that. And anytime he's requested, we also have that. He's gone to the Reading Phillies, as you can see here. He's a big hit down there. And he's gone to our various recruiting events. Here he is at Alvernia, campus of Alvernia at a recruiting event. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing and it makes me smile and it benefits us. When we go to these recruiting events, there's all these tables set up. They have pictures of all this stuff that they do. We have a dog. And we bring it, so everybody comes over and wants to hang out with Ollie. He's like the star. So it's pretty cool. It's a great recruitment tool for us. But he's engaged with, I can't even try and wrap my head around how many thousands of individuals that he's encountered, that he's met, that he's engaged with, all the way from infants and toddlers to our senior citizens. Everybody loves him and he's really made an impact. School-wise, Officer Heatley spends a lot of time and Officer Ollie spends a lot of time in the schools. And it's really neat to see because the students, almost the way they talk about him, I think Gene at one point we had a student here and Gene heard him say, told Gene that, Officer Ollie goes to my school. Almost like another student, like a buddy kind of thing. So it's really cool. I wanted to just throw out some notable encounters. And I promise you all, it'll make sense of why I'm up here and presenting this at this particular time. But Officer Ollie's assisted numerous missing juvenile cases. When we pulled this, it's not the traditional canine assistance that is usually utilized in missing persons, which normally would be for tracking an individual. In most missing juvenile cases, the juvenile is found within a short period of time and usually within a short distance from the location where they first went missing. Oftentimes, my experience is that they are hiding somewhere in the yard or somewhere even in the house. Needless to say, if it's not intentional
and they're not just playing the game in their own mind, which is what kids do, and they happen to do wander away, it can be very traumatic for a young child when they're found or when they're out there and they are having trouble communicating where they live, or what they're doing. And it can be equally, I don't have to tell you this, traumatizing to the parents or the loved ones that are involved. So when Officer Oliver goes to these kind of missing persons calls, he serves a valuable purpose by trying to calm numerous people involved in the incident. It can be very traumatic, and he assists when I pulled the reports numerous times in that fashion. He's developed relationships with numerous individuals who struggle with mental health issues, and the reason I say that is Officer Sean Heatley receives phone calls from individuals that he's assisted, that Officer Oliver assisted in the past, who or deal with issues with mental health, and they'll call him and say, I believe I'm starting to have an episode. There's something gonna happen. I have that feeling again. And Officer Heatley and Officer Ollie will actually go out there and take the time to be with that individual, to calm them, and just allow he or she to stroke, pet, and kind of be next to Oliver, and they don't have that episode. So that's amazing to me. When I heard that and I read that report, it's just amazing. I mean, if you think about that, that's just profound. They always say if you can save one life, everything's worth it. Well, what he's doing is somewhat unmeasurable, because who's to say that he's not saving someone's life? These individuals that are dealing with these mental health diseases, they're contemplating suicide often. And Officer Oliver, if he can prevent that, yeah, you can't quantify that. I can't put a number on that. But what I can say is, I truly believe that he's making an incredible impact on our community. And that's really what the police department, our primary mission and job is to service the community that we police in, to be there for them, because we want them to call us. We want to be able to help them. There's been individuals who reside in the township that are historically given officers a hard time when we're called out there for whether it's a mental health warrant or just an individual who needs to get treatment and is refusing treatment. When I say give our officers a hard time, the reality is what they do is they fight with our officers. So our officers go to these calls knowing that there's a pretty much 99% chance that I'm going to have to wrestle with this individual, or I'm going to have to put my hands on this individual and forcibly make them get help, which is kind of it's a tough thing to wrap your head around. You're forcing someone to get help. You shouldn't have to do that. These officers have to do that often. And there's been a number of times where Officer Oliver has responded, and one of the things that Officer Heatley says to them is, "Do you like dogs? If I get my dog out, will you behave?" And right away the response is, "Yeah, I love dogs," and "Yeah, okay, I'll behave," and they do. We had an individual not too long ago, correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Heatley, but they got into the ambulance. They weren't going to get in the ambulance until Officer Oliver showed up, and you rode in the ambulance with them, correct? Officer Oliver and Officer Heatley rode in the ambulance just to make sure that they behaved, if you will, until they got to the hospital for their mental health disease and treatment. So I could go on about all these different encounters that happen on a regular basis. And it's not we're not doing it obviously for the accolades. He just loves doing it. This is what Officer Heatley enjoys doing, and this is what obviously Oliver really enjoys doing. We were the first police department in Berks County to deploy a therapy canine officer, and to date, from what I know, we're still the only police department in Berks County that has a therapy canine officer. We also obviously offer our services or his services to anyone in the county, any other police department, or any other agency that would ask us for help that may benefit from having it there. And by having a therapy dog, we've taken community engagement and community policing just to another level. We're doing things that other departments can't do because they don't have the therapy dog. They absolutely don't. And police officers show up, traditional canines, and plaster all over their cars, "Do not touch," warning. And then we have Officer Oliver that shows up, And we might as well put on there, come to me, like pet me. Because as soon as he gets out, obviously people are just attracted to him. And we want that. We want that immediate engagement to occur. And we are. I mean, this is again over at Alvernia that, he's just the most popular kid on campus. So just to kind of wrap this up, one of the things I wanted to present to the board other than this was just how effective Officer Oliver is, and just how much more effective we can be as a police department if we can add a police therapy dog to our ranks. And that's what I'm
I have a
going to do.
question. Is there a certain age or a certain number of years that he's allowed to work?
There is not. So there's nothing written in stone. The bottom line is when we feel that his age or his physical condition is preventing him or hindering him from continuing to do what he's doing now, at that point we look to retire. Since he's a larger dog, their shelf life for working is a little bit less than a smaller dog. But being his age right now, and since he's been on the job since 2023 active, he's definitely has about 3-4 more years I anticipate in him.
Years, does he have a bulletproof vest?
He does not have a bulletproof vest, but he has a vest, but he doesn't have a bulletproof vest. One of the things that Officer Heatley has been trained in is to assess the situation and immediately determine if it's safe for Officer Oliver to actually get out of the car. So in a situation where it's an unknown, which are pretty much any call until Officer Heatley gets there to evaluate, he remains in the car. That's one of the reasons why he says, "Are you going to behave if I get my dog out?" So he's trained to know that he doesn't place Officer Oliver in any kind of situation which would compromise his safety. So I asked the liaisons if they would be willing to support the idea of adding a therapy dog to this police department, just based on the effectiveness that Officer Oliver has and how much more we can do. Because I have grand visions of being able to not only get into schools, but also get into the retirement communities and homes that are in this township. We have a lot of individuals that reside in these various retirement communities that also historically have fell victim to crimes, fraud, and they're easily tricked by these scam artists. And one of the things that I want to do is be able to get a therapy dog into that environment, and not only get the attractiveness of having the dog there, but then also take advantage of the audience and be able to present to them and say, "Listen, I want to talk to you a little bit about some scams that are going on." So it'll help us, one, engage the community, and two, be able to get these meetings, if you will, to be able to pass along information to individuals that may fall victim to scams. So one of the things that I talked about before with the therapy unit or therapy dog is the most important thing is the selection of not only the dog, but the handler. You have to have a handler that's going to work and make this unit work. And Sean's been doing a great job. We've identified another officer within the department that would be an exceptional therapy dog handler. And by putting this individual in the position and assignment of a therapy dog, will also open up other possibilities in our department for movement section. So we have an officer who's basically born and raised within the township, spent his whole career in the township. I think he had a brief stint, maybe 6 to 8 months in the city of Reading, right when I was there early. But he's expressed an interest in taking on this challenge, and he'll be an incredible therapy dog handler. So what I'm asking the board is to consider allowing me to move forward with identifying a therapy dog and being able to truly have a therapy unit within Cumru Township.
So one of the things, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out real quick, I think you were talking about putting them on different shifts. Because right now, Oliver's only working certain hours. Having a second one would just increase the availability of having a therapy dog on shift.
Correct. It would increase the availability, and the individual who would be the handler would have the ability to, flex the hours that he works. Whereas right now, I'm sorry, Heatley, he's attached to a shift. So he has responsibilities with a shift manning that really prevent him from doing a lot of flexing, but he can flex his hours, and he does. This will open the door and allow us to be able to hit every event that we, can dream of in the township. So yes, the intent is to have them working almost opposite, if you will, for most days, so they can hit and maximize our coverage.
I'll make a
I believe you had, some kind of donation for funding Holly. You have that same kind of funding
Yes.
donation?
So we've identified individuals that, or not individuals, but we have individuals and companies that donate money to us annually. And one of the things we do is we can also, and we have also with Officer Oliver, gone out and tried to get community partners to help us with the funding. It's a very low cost, essentially, to maintain a unit. The cost for getting the dog and getting the training is one thing, but maintaining them is just another thing. So what we would do is we would be using donation funds to help support a lot of the costs associated with caring dog. And I'd also like to go out and be able to solicit, if you will, and that might be a bad word, but solicit more funding. And I always tell them it's creating the partnerships. If they want to be involved and be a partner in this therapy unit, we ask them to help us fund it. Yeah, so we'll be actively doing it.
I'd like to make a motion adding another therapy dog officer and purchasing another therapy dog.
I'll second.
Mr. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
And I will need a second motion. You can see on your agenda, we'd like to add the vehicle to the local service, grant application. Remember, at the last meeting, we had a couple of trucks. We want to add this to that application. I need a motion for a revised resolution.
So I'll second.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Greg, Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bradford.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Before moving forward, I did want to ask a couple questions on that pertinent. You have me on 100% sold benefit to apartment dynamics, benefit to recruiting outcomes, benefit to policing outcomes, sounds like the one. But as it pertains to Officer Ali and the forthcoming new canine officer, I want to first say thank you to Officer Easley, Officer Ali. Unfortunately, I have personal experience much more than I'm happy to share with like career views and the experience of mental health crisis. So I understand, unfortunately, very well how hard it is to de-escalate somebody in the throes of a mental health crisis. And I want to say thank you for any intervention and for any, like you said, one life that might be helped as a result of this. So great job. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And then please feel free to pet Ollie and have him come visit you.
I wanted to just a quick ask question with regard to the vehicle redesign. The one thing I was curious about is, do we have any sense if there's any cost savings associated with the redesign?
There is. So one of the reasons why we went, because I said there was a few different reasons why. One of the reasons why we looked at changing this up is with the old fleet. When I say old, meaning the new design.
The 12.
The Adam 12 vehicles, right? So they were the LAPD black and whites. So when we purchased a vehicle, as you know, you may not, you have to purchase either a black vehicle or a white vehicle, and then paint that. If you want the style that we had, which is the Adam 12 or LAPD model. So we would buy a black car, paint it white, that would be a cost, obviously, because that's something that's special. Also, one of the things that we decided we wanted to look at was repurposing and getting the most out of these vehicles. So once a vehicle has served its useful life, as Bob would always say, on the patrol fleet line, and it's not run then, 16 hours a day, it still has use because it's maintained so well by our mechanics. So we wanted to transition them into detective vehicles because they're maintained well, they're built well, and they still have some life in them. And we don't have to then paint them black. So we just repurposed one of the old black and whites, and we had to get it painted, took care of getting it painted. And there's a cost associated with that. So those two areas right there is about $5,000 to $7,000 in savings when we transition a vehicle from patrol into CIU. So that's one reason. The other thing was we looked at with the graphic, it's pretty much. We went with an individual who no longer lives in the township, he lived right outside the township. It's tough and difficult to get a hold of right now. So we took the opportunity to look at other vendors in the area, and we went with a vendor that's larger, it can handle more, and which reduced the cost somewhat. So there was a small cost savings we had as well. Those are the two big reasons. And one, or small reason is we wanted to stand out a little bit. We're proud of our department, we want to be recognized, which is why, Commissioner Miller, Greg Miller asked about, I may have promoted you or demoted you, I'm not sure.
That's what I just said, Alicia, I got promoted. I guess.
So, but to let the citizens know that, hey, it's still us, because they're used to those black and whites. So, they look sharp, they really look sharp. But that's the main reason. Those are the two biggest cost saving reasons of the line.
That's awesome. And I have one more simple sort of tangentially related question around the maintenance schedule of the hybrid vehicles. Do we have a sense that, because my intuition is that, and this is not meant to be taken in a condescending way at all, is that police vehicles idle quite a lot. And I know hybrid vehicles are often not running the motor while they're idling. Does that, to your knowledge, like save in terms of our maintenance schedule and CapEx planning and things like that?
The information that I got from other departments that have these hybrids, because it's too soon to tell for us.
Yeah.
The information I received from the other departments was that there is a cost savings that you'll experience from gas, obviously. As far as the idling, they said that it's still really unknown mechanically how this is going to compare for cost of maintenance and upkeep as opposed to the gas. So we're not quite sure yet. That's still an unknown. But as far as you're right, the officers have to understand that there's a period of time that they have to get up to speed from what the manufacturer said forward to recharge that battery. We don't have a problem with that here in the township because we're 33 some square miles. They do have the opportunity to get up to speed. Now, mind you, they're not on 222, 422, or 176 blind. If we're going to do that, we'll go on 176. The state police is going to cover that top speed. So we'll go up there and make their lives happy. But yeah, no, it's kind of a non-answer. I apologize. Yeah.
Thank you.
Once we outfit another farm, second, third, we go.
Yeah, so that's what Gene was talking about with the LSA grant. So the intent is to hopefully get a grant that will cover the purchase of the vehicle and the upfitting. Upfitting surprisingly isn't shocking. That being said, if the LSA grant won't cover the vehicle, we're hoping it covers the upfitting. We do have a vehicle that we can identify that we can repurpose into a canine vehicle if that LSA grant is not approved for the vehicle, which then at that point will just be the cost associated with the upfitting. So it'll be much less than a new vehicle.
I just want to, you're not alone in this, but I've noticed you found creative ways to save money. But maybe sometimes for other reasons, maybe for that reason explicitly, but I think that's awesome. I think we as a township, need to be diligent and prudent with how we're spending money, and I think Chief Winchester is doing a great job of that, so I want to thank you for that. That cost savings there, would you say $5,000 per vehicle? How many, I mean, not that we're going to, but we could get a new canine officer for each vehicle that we turn over, because that kind of savings, not that we're going to, because we don't want to just be imprudent with our money, but so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, moving on to the fire department report with Chief Dean.
Good evening, commissioners. And my monthly reports for the tablet for the month of August. There were a couple fires. Of course, it was an outbuilding, which was a garage / barn. And that's being attended to now by the homeowner. Outside, I'll take any questions if you have along the report. Keep on moving to this PNC. Looking for a motion for applications for payment totaling the amount of $935,383.70 to the following contractors: Bolton Incorporated, pay at $754,504.75. HB Fraser, pay at $112,470.30. Vision Mechanical, pay application 13, $20,757.50. And Air Management, pay out 11, $47,649.15. For a total of $935,383.70.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Will Miller,
Yeah.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
And just a quick update on item C, CPAT still online with the civil service testing. We had 18 candidates going to CPAT. One went through their application. 10 of the 17 passed on round one. They had 2 more opportunities to test to pass the CPAT. One is coming up on Tuesday, the 24th. And hopefully we get a couple more of them knocked out and they will be finished, and then we can move on to the oral interviews. But that's where we stand with the civil service testing for the fire department. Unless someone has something else, that's all I have for this evening, and thank you.
Okay, Jean with administration.
Thank you. The first item, codes report. If you have any questions, please let me know, or feel free to call Mr. Frymore directly. In this related topic, Mr. Frymore and I are building up a list of properties that we're going to send letters to ask them to trim trees, because if not, they will not get snow plowing in that area because the trees are hanging too low. Even I know leaves are going to fall, and that goes from the second week of October through the 9 weeks or the first significant snowfall. So it's not leaf collection season yet. But there are some trees that are hanging low enough that even without their leaves, snow plowing will be difficult. So we're going to be sending a few notices. There are also a few properties where the trees are blocking traffic control signs. I can think of a couple of them off the top of my head, and if we've noticed them, those property owners will get a letter. Also, we have a yardway site that after people trim their trees, they can drop the materials off at the yardway site 2 times a month. So I just wanted to make that PSA and let you know that we're going to send out a few letters. Item 2, the 2026 minimum municipal obligations for pensions. The board may recall that I've often referred to this as the beginning of budget season. You have on your tablets the specific resolutions. You also have a tabulation of the history of the MMOs. That this is not a requirement for me to keep this information, but it's been handy over the years to take a look. The thing that I would point out about this year, so remember, this is the 2026 minimum municipal obligation for both of the pension plans. You already set, or the prior board already set the 2025 minimum municipal obligation, which will have to be paid by the end of this year. That being said, the interesting phenomenon about the 2026 minimum municipal obligation is that for the first time since I have been here, the amounts are reversed for the police department, the police pension, then MMO, and the non-uniform MMO. The reason for that is that at this time, the firefighters are combined in with the non-uniform MMO. And that the number of firefighters and the fact that the firefighters have gone to the 24/7 service has skewed that information. So I wanted to point that out. If any of you had looked at this spreadsheet, it would really pop out at you. And that is the explanation. Be that as it may, the MMO for both plans combined is somewhat less than last year. And I did take a look online, and the various municipal government informational entities like Pennsylvania Municipal League, Pennsylvania State and Township Association of Township Commissioners, which is the one that we belong to, have put out the announcement that the unit value for 2025 was announced. That's the critical figure that determines the amount of state aid for pension. We have not received that state aid yet. We will be dealing with that probably in your October agenda. However, the unit value is the highest it has ever been, ever. It's $6,660, almost $6. It's an interesting figure, and that will also help in paying the MMO. So sometime between now and sometime in October, we will be paying the 2025 minimum municipal obligation. What I'm asking the board to do right now, as you can see on your agenda, is to adopt two resolutions. One for the non-uniform 2026 minimum municipal obligation in the amount of $697,915. And the uniform or police minimum municipal obligation for 2026 in the amount of $434,186.
There's no questions.
I'll second.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bachelor,
Yeah.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes,
Ms. Rao. Yes. Thank you. The next item apparently is irrelevant because the deal fell through. I'm not sure how, but it's not happening, unfortunately. Item D, mosquito prevention. The mosquito coordinator for Berks County. There's one of the flyers that are disseminated by them on the website, on the wall. But they send out regular reports to the municipalities. There have been two, they do sampling of mosquitoes for West Nile virus, and there have been two instances in the past couple of months of mosquitoes in Cumru Township testing positive for West Nile virus. They are simply asking municipalities to reiterate to residents to please dispose of standing water on your properties. If it has rained and bucket outside full of water, dump that water out, give the mosquitoes less of a place to breed. So that's the PSA on mosquito prevention. In regard to planning, remember at the last meeting, Mr. Donnell had suggested a consent agenda. We used to do that. Some people have been coming to these meetings for a very long time, will recall, but a consent agenda specifically for all of these planning items. And Ms. Rao gave us permission to construct it as a consent agenda. The motion would be a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, and the specific actions on the consent agenda are totally spelled out in the bold type proposed action for each item. If you have any questions on what any of these items are, please feel free to ask before the vote.
And all of them look like reaffirmations and then extensions of time until the end of this year. That's it. No questions, I move to adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Mr. Backdoor,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Jean has nothing further. Public Works, with Mr. McNichols.
Good evening. Recently, Gene, received a letter about, proposal to change the legislation for, application of road salt. Maybe Gene can fill us in a little bit and I have some additional comments.
The legislation itself, if any of the board members looked at it, is fairly innocuous. And I don't know the likelihood or non-likelihood in the current legislative session on the state level, whether or not this will be adopted. So essentially, the legislation says the legislature directs the DEP to adopt a manual of best management practices for application of road salt. That is a very innocuous type of bill. What I want to point out to the board is that this type of legislation will lead to some kind of rulemaking by the DEP. And there will likely, I think, required, the solicitor can tell me that would be required for public comment. The thing that has to be dealt with, and I've spoken out about this at various meetings, including the Angelica Creek meetings, is there is no exact way to formulate, you should have put this amount of salt on this piece of road here. Every storm is different. Even in Cumru Township, if you go from this point at Welsh Road, which is one of the lowest points, up to the top of the hill, you can get a significant difference in temperature from this location to the top of the hill. I would encourage the board, if the DEP, if this legislation passes and the DEP has a public comment period, we should scrutinize what rulemaking is proposed, because there has to be some kind of leeway for the municipality to judge what's best for the municipality. There has to be an out.
Some of the comments in that legislation that I read were, making sure it's stored, it's not running off from rain, things like that. I think we're actually ahead of the curve. We've got 2 nice salt sheds that we've built in the last 15 years. They seem to contain that. Like Gene was saying, we have a 800-foot elevation change in Cumru Township spread over 20 square miles. What it's doing in Doctorsville is not the same thing as doing on East Point Drive from the far eastern end of the township. Doctorsville gets the wind coming up on the Lancaster County. Welsh Road may be higher, but it's not getting the wind necessarily. When did the sun come out? How much traffic are you getting? PennDOT can get away with saying we put down about 300 pounds per lane mile because they predict their traffic and that mechanical action don't loosen things up. We put a lot more down. We have to be extremely careful. This township for many years, this board of commissioners has established a black road policy. Let me tell you, did your phones ring last winter when we had to have the ATU trucks out? I imagine not so much. They changed this amount of salt we have to use significantly. That's the only thing that keeps the ice and snow off the road. Even once we follow a full-way, we still have to salt. So we have to be very careful, or it's gonna be a sea change for the driving public, and it's gonna get ugly. So depending on what they do, just be prepared.
Yeah, and that was my takeaway. I did this morning, look at the legislation. It looks like right now, what you said, Gene, it's create a best practices guide. And it says to take effect within 1 year of the law taking effect. So I think you're right, like, I think we need to keep our eye on this and just be aware of something coming down the pipe, but I think from what I see, it's not going to have an imminent impact in the next year.
If they start restricting how much salt we can put down for storm, for rain mile, it's gonna be an issue. If you live on Church Road, it's gonna be one thing, there's no traffic, things like that. On a street like where you live, Andy, or Greg, if it's just a cul-de-sac, you're probably getting almost no cars, no. So then you don't get that work of stone and snow. And more and more lately, you've seen these ice storms. The only thing that fixes an ice storm is us keep running around and dumping more salt. I understand it's not good to be a black light, but that's where the choice has to be made. Are you gonna run out to the store maybe when you shouldn't? Or do you want the fish to not be so salty?
If I remember correctly, the email, they were looking for support, they being, it was First Nature, I think.
That was, the Angelica Creek Watershed Association, that is, an offshoot of Birch Nature. Patty and I attend those meetings, the township is not a voting, part of the Angelica Creek group, we do attend meetings. And there's been a lot of discussion of it at the Angelica, Creek meetings, and of course, they are advocating that individuals support this, individuals and other entities support this legislation. I'm not making a recommendation one way or the other to the board. I'm just cautioning the board when it gets to, if it's adopted, when it gets to the rulemaking stage, which is the next stage, those rules, you have to, I do recommend you authorize your engineer and any other consultants and staff to look at what that rulemaking is and formulate some comments if it is going to go in the direction of tying the hands of the municipality.
That makes sense. I'm curious, has the Angelica Creek Watershed Association found any like evidence of substantial detriment to the aquatic life that you know?
They believe that they have found, they are citizen scientists, and they believe they have found some instances of salts affecting stream. Now, not, and I hope I don't speak too much out of turn, we can always contact them. My understanding is it's not critically so. In other words, stream isn't dead or anything extreme.
And I keep it close on it, because it's not just salt. If a certain
Yeah.
large, say, commercial swimming pool dumps a lot of stuff into the creek.
Those are salt. Of a different kind, yeah,
Yes, and that has come up a few times.
yes.
Yeah, I was just curious if they're sounding the alarm for support on this because they're seeing like any like
There's
critical, notable,
Right.
like, ecological impact, but if not.
There is some, I do remember at one point, their findings, we couldn't correlate it specifically to any specific snow or winter event. We know that salt runoff goes into the environment, not only, it seems like a no-brainer, but, there are some individuals with very, very shallow wells, who have said, my water tastes funny after your salt. And my recommendation to an individual like that is to me, you're drinking stormwater. Yes, they're not in the aquifer, their well is not down to the aquifer. So it is a no-brainer that salt runoff gets into the environment. But it is a very uncomfortable meeting to have when a person is standing in front of the board saying that their loved one got in an accident or a near miss because they believe that the township did not treat the roads sufficiently. That's a very uncomfortable position to be in. And we have police and fire to think about. They need to get around.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to suggest we wouldn't want to entertain people as a municipality. I'm just purely out of curiosity, impacts it in the meetings.
Yes.
If there's any, but it doesn't sound like it's critical.
Not critical, but they are advocating for this legislation or any other legislation like it. And that is that's their mission. Health of Green is their mission, so I get that. It all comes down to, with almost any issue, balance. What is the balance? And sometimes it's hard to identify what the balance is. And what I'm saying is this is one of those areas where the township in some form, whether it's staff or consultant, have to keep our finger on the pulse of this issue as it moves through the legislation.
Moving on, I just want to let you know that we got the long pen, truck restriction signed up, last week. It took some time to get the ordinance, took some time over to sign, they're all up. We still have to put some pavement markings out there that were more of a suggestion, than a requirement, not so much related to the truck restrictions, but, as a result of the, traffic study. And we also had the stop sign up at Amherst and Jefferson, that went up yesterday. That requires a flashing red light for 45 days, I believe. So you'll see that. And that's all I have to see in the material.
You guys got that 15 mph speed limit down, I think, too.
We did. I went over personally and took that down and knocked on the door so he could deal with me. That did not happen. He did call me later. He was very skeptical about why I did it and why we went from 15 to 20. I explained all the details. We have a book. It's about that thick. There are studies, there are angles. He seems satisfied with my explanations, and that unsolicited sign is now down. And it's an advisory sign, but we had to go back up in there, different colors than regulatory sign. And we can worry with that all night long.
I actually just want to let you know some feedback I've heard from folks that live on Mount Penn Road. They said they noticed a significant difference in truck traffic already since that sign was going on.
And they're had that put up a slightly different sign. They did a weight restriction and a length restriction. They haven't heard on Freemansville. We had to package together because the one end of Penn dead end of Freemansville. Ours is just a weight restriction. But with their length restriction, you're not going to get back to the right place. If they do, you'll see them.
Thank you, Bob. The engineer report of Joe Dusty.
Just add on to what Bob was saying, when we looked at those trucks, we did run truck templates throughout the Mount Penn Road to determine what type of size and weight restriction. And as far as this advisory speed, there is a lot of factors involved. It has to do with super elevation, skid resistance, and the geometry of that curve. Even though it's a warning advisory speed, it's still there to help provide safety for the motorists driving along that curve. So there are many factors that are involved, and just wanted to kind of echo that what Bob was just saying a little bit earlier. Other than that, I do not have anything else to report unless anybody has any questions.
I would simply like to just kind of take Joe by surprise, but in a good way. We'll talk with Joe. The larger LSA grant window is open, and to November 30th, I believe, is the ending date. So we'll talk with Joe about what projects we can apply for the larger LSA grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Solicitor report, Dawson.
Thank you. Yeah, the item on my agenda item relates to the planning commission and posting certain criteria for the planning commission. This issue stems from an email that Jean had received from a resident. That was a pretty lengthy email that had a lot of ideas regarding economic development, which I believe kind of stemmed from the steering committee sessions that have been going on. One of the items in his email related to public visibility of the planning commission. And so Jean kind of wanted to get the board to have maybe a little bit of discussion on whether they wanted to change sort of the policy on the visibility of the planning commission. And when I say visibility, I mean things like the agenda being posted and retained on the website, for a longer time than just, right prior to the meeting. So he put kind of a spreadsheet together about a bunch of different municipalities and how they handle the posting of the monthly agenda, whether they keep those agendas up by year and month, whether they post the minutes from the planning commission meetings, whether they actually post the plans and reviews and have those available on the website. He also indicated that he thought meetings should be recorded and posted on YouTube, similar to the board commissioner meeting. And he wanted the plans and pretty much all of the reviews of the plans to be posted on the website as well. So just thought we could have a discussion on the visibility of the planning commission and see if the board had any inclination to change the way that the township goes about getting things out to the public that the planning commission is looking at.
So I have a couple of thoughts here. It seems there's a couple of things, we can break this apart. But two, I think, are very lightweight. One, publishing the YouTube. You have equipment here, you have a process, have a YouTube page, takes 30 seconds, might plus or minus, you tell me, but it's not a heavy lift. I think that is a transparency to our residents that
It takes, and I'm not stopping here, but it takes 30 seconds to record it. It takes 30 minutes or more to get it up.
sure, and
Just
yes,
you know,
I'm being,
Just managing expectations, sir.
yeah.
And who is the person that's gonna take care of setting that up?
Well, it's already set up. Let me just finish my thought real quick. So, understood, in 30 minutes, 5 minutes, it's a short amount of time for radically increased transparency and visibility for the residents of the township. I think that is a bargain that pays for itself 1,000 times over. The residents get radical transparency for 30 minutes of one of the township employees' time. I think that is a no-brainer. The second thing that I think is low-hanging fruit is we already have standards that were enacted last year around publishing of agendas and timelines for getting an agenda out within giving more time for the public to see the agenda before the meeting is held. I think that is already in place. We don't have to draft anything, but I would move to have the planning commission and zoning hearing board both adopt recorded meetings published to YouTube and the same timeline requirements for agenda publishing.
Again, who is going to set this up for every meeting and make sure it's okay, and then save it to, I guess, the YouTube website? Who is that person who's going to do that?
Let me answer. The way it would have to work with planning is, if Patty and I are both here, it's a little bit easier. If only one of us is here, it's gonna be set it and forget it. Set it at the beginning of the meeting, and then the meeting will proceed, and then we'll have to go at the end of the meeting and do the loading. The planning commission never has an executive session. That's only happened once in my entire career. And that was at the very first year I was here, for an issue concerning litigation. So that's a good thing. Zoning hearing board, I will have to, I guess, consult with the zoning hearing board solicitor.
Yeah, I would consult with Jason on that.
Okay. In regard to agendas, the question we already post agendas. And I take screen caps of every agenda that I post in case anyone ever questions whether it has occurred. The issue with the agendas is whether or not we have to keep them on the website ad infinitum.
And the answer to that, Jean, is no. I mean, you have to keep, the township must keep the agendas for all time in the township, but you don't need to keep them posted publicly on the website for life.
Right. I don't think it's a problem with the planning commission in posting the minutes. right now we haven't been doing that, we certainly can do that. Again, in regard to the zoning hearing board, things don't work the same, so I'd really like to consult with the zoning hearing board solicitor about what you recommend, what you would like to do. Certainly the notices for the zoning hearing board are always public, that's a requirement. And the agendas are published, as required. So my issue with the planning commission, aside from, I really don't believe agendas need to be kept on the website ad infinitum. Although if we start uploading minutes, my issue with the planning commission is the amount of documentation that comes with the planning commission.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's why it's something in between, you were suggesting.
If I may say something.
We could just, we could eliminate the agendas and just go straight through YouTube, and there it lays it out, it's transparent as it can be.
Excuse me, if I could say something, because basically I do it, for convenience, the agenda is usually, 99.9%, posted on a Friday, because our meeting's on a Monday, and, I live a little far away, I don't really want to come in on a Sunday to post an agenda. So my PC members get all the information on a Friday, so they can mull it over for the weekend. The agenda's already posted, on a Friday. And I think what Jean's trying to allude to is our, minutes, I don't know how other people do, but our minutes are based on the agenda. Literally, like if you look at the agenda and then look at the minutes, you'll see the categories, like everything's the same. So once our, minutes are adopted, they pretty much are the agenda. So that's kind of why we don't keep the agenda, on the website. And as Dave was saying, we were trying to think of maybe like a compromise, because maybe we could take like the top page of a plan. Some of these plans are 20 pages long. It would be very difficult, plus it's very hard. Somebody's just looking on the website, they're really only looking for a snapshot. So if you're looking on your phone, it can be very difficult to see a plan when you're like zooming around on your phone and stuff. We had suggested maybe like the application to tell you what's going on. And depending on when we receive, sometimes we don't get the Berks County review until like after the fact, because they have, depends when we get our stuff, when they get their stuff. But we could do like a compromise in between, an application what's going on, maybe a review if we get it in time for the agenda. But to put like a 20-page plan is gonna be really kind of crazy.
The plans are received, if somebody wants to come in and see.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like I said, I think that we can break this up. What I was referring to are not all of the planning documents at all. Like I said, I think we can get agendas and minutes out at a cadence that gives the public clarity. And I think we can put meeting recordings on YouTube, understanding that the zoning hearing board operates a little differently and maybe some consultation with their solicitor. But let's put all of the other documents, planning documents, etc., aside for now. I think those two things are low hanging fruit that are no brainers. And I think we can go ahead.
I just want to make sure that the minutes, they need to be approved by the planning commission at the next meeting before they're posted, in case there's changes that need to be made. So they're not going to be posted the day after the meeting. It would be the next month.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly. And I think what we established last year or so was there was just a certain amount of time that we said the minutes have to be published after approval. Not that they have to be published the day after the meeting or anything like that. So maybe a week after approval. I think that's reasonable. And I think agenda coming out a week, 5 business days, let's say, prior to a meeting being held is reasonable as well.
Well, how long does something stay on YouTube?
as long as YouTube lets it stay, right? I'm not trying not to be flip,
That's my point.
but that's part of why we have that long disclaimer. Before we started putting the Board of Commissioners meetings on YouTube, we had Kelsey work with us on a disclaimer. The township cannot control YouTube's policies if all of a sudden the rules of the game change, but the township won't remove it. I don't know if YouTube would ever remove it for anything.
But to that point, that there. Well, how much do we pay to host the videos on YouTube?
0 as far as I know.
$0. So, okay, so I don't think cost of the persistence of those videos is an issue. And to your question, Bill, I know where you're coming from and you're trying to be considerate of the township staff, but there are 12-year-old YouTube stars. It does not take an engineering degree or software expertise to upload a video to YouTube. We have to hit record, hit stop, and a little bit of extra stuff in there, but this is not a complicated science project. This is hit record, hit stop, hit upload, with a couple of little drag and drop in between. This is not massive effort, and again, this gives a radical transparency to our residents. I would amend my previous motion to move for the minute publishing and agenda publishing as stated, and publishing of YouTube recording for the planning commission. With the zoning hearing and the board, we can wait until we get consultation, not the additional documentation.
Okay, but, sometimes I don't have this, like, I'm only getting it for Friday. So that is still, I don't know how many hours that is before a Monday meeting, but I usually have that out and, on the website, on like the afternoon of a Friday.
Yes, so
Because I'm really dependent on when the engineer gets me the reviews, when everything kind of comes together, so. To kind of like tie my hands to 5 days, I don't always have things for 5 days, it's really
Really
different.
does rely on the engineers and their letters and their requests, because sometimes the agenda requires waiver requests that maybe an engineer from one of the developers doesn't get to us until Friday morning. And then, you know, it's, if the agenda's already posted.
Well, again, I'm reiterating, I think it's simply easy.
with that reason.
Well, we do it on a Friday now, that is more than the 24 hours that's required.
That's fine, then let's stay with that, but do you have any objection to YouTube publishing it, or is that?
I will have to
irrelevant?
learn YouTube among the many other things,
So
but
we'll do it.
I'll figure it out, I guess, I'm not a YouTube guru.
The only other thing that was
With more multi-family than you already want.
Just,
the other thing that was requested by this resident was, I think he said he was having a difficult time locating the zoning map.
I already fixed
You
on.
fix that? Okay. And I'll do it up.
So to Andy's point, I mean, I think the loading group makes total sense, that's obvious, but there are some long-term things that we need to look into here as well. Even with the YouTube, there is probably a point in time where we're gonna run into storage issues. I don't know what that is. Maybe
For a
it's,
very long time.
yeah, but you know, at some point, we should probably have some sort of long-term solution as to what we're gonna do with that. Not to mention too, is like, I'm looking at user experience, I guess, to just kind of have them all lumped in there, and somebody's got to scroll through to find the right one, but there's ways we can improve that as well. So I guess where I'm going with this, I know you're looking into like long-term, like technological solutions. You can group some of his requests in with that, and then come up with the short term is obvious, that's easy, but then building the long-term stuff up with that.
Don't discount,
Good advice.
don't discount the magic that Mike Yost works in there. He's good at this and Frank, you're right, 11-year-old kids do this all the time, because we do it all the time.
Sure, and Mike, we appreciate the work you do, and not.
And he does it once a month, and he's got a cheat sheet for me, so I can dummy my way through it when I have to, because 2-3 times a year, you know, something comes up and I make it work. But there's little things that we have to do, we have to make sure we don't open up the comments that it's not covered with, you know, untoward things that people are posting. But the more you do this, the more you're approaching needing somebody to do this for you. Not just a member of staff. and again, not whining, but Mike and I have to be back here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And there's nights that we'll download and that finally at 11 o'clock. You know, you start adding a couple, and I agree, put them all on there. But you're approaching, you need to get it to the next level, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure, I think that makes sense, and I think Greg, to your point, I think this is. Like I said, I think this is just about the low hanging fruit. My point is just about the low hanging fruit. I do understand, and I agree with you, Bob. I think we probably need to formalize how we approach this maybe more, like have a published run book. That maybe it's not just on you and Mike, and maybe we establish that the video gets published within 48 hours of meetings. You guys don't have to be up till 11
And
o'clock.
when we started doing this, we did talk about some buffer, that we didn't, again, managing expectations. We don't do it live. It's not gonna be up by 9 o'clock. Some of these meetings don't end until 11 o'clock, you know, things like that. And luckily, we haven't had issues where we had to deal with weather where the second we're done, Mike and I need to go do other things. So, yeah, you are getting to the point, you need some kind of buffer, like that will get it up within 48 hours, whatever you choose, but it's.
Well, Bob, is 48 hours enough?
Well, you tried to put me on the spot with this last time, Commissioner Backdoor. It can be, but you know, there's always anomalies and.
Sure.
Things are working and, you know, things.
Yeah, but I'll give you an extra day.
Yes, sir, probably, 48 hours is probably fine. But again, you gotta manage those expectations, or you're gonna hear it from the public, like, hey, you're supposed to be up by 7 a.m. Well, we didn't get there.
Gene and Patty are already swamped with work. So now we're gonna add another task, because a 12-year-old can do it, it's that easy. You know,
No,
I'm
it's
saying
not
that-
because a 12-year-old can do it, it's because the residents deserve transparency and access to information about what's going on in the township.
yeah, but Gene and Patty are already swamped with work, and now you give them another task, and just make it happen. Just like
Understood,
that.
and my argument being that this is valuable to our residents. They are asking.
I'm not arguing that point, I'm arguing the person who's going to do this for every meeting that you're talking about.
Sure,
That's the
and
problem.
that's our responsibility as commissioners to tell Gene and Patty what the priorities are. And what I'm saying is, I think the priority should be transparency to the residents.
And I appreciate both points of view. As I've been thinking about, what this resident email, we'll create a separate planning commission page. And we'll load up the approved minutes so far for 2025, unless you want me to go back further, we can go back further. But I think 2025 is a good place to start. And putting up the plan applications for plans currently under review is easy. Those are all 8.5 by 11. Scanned easy. I think Patty's right. We can put up a snapshot of a plan that's under review, but to do all the sheets is kind of ridiculous. I do think the requester in his email was a bit ambitious with putting every single document on there, because then you really will run into space problems. But we certainly can do more. This is the kind of discussion that I've actually wanted to have, because I know that the board of commissioners has ideas, but you need to articulate what those are. So I appreciate all the discussion. Unless Kelsey has a different idea, I don't think we really need the motion. I think I got my direction. We got our direction just from this discussion. And I appreciate that. Again, the zoning hearing board will have to be a discussion with the zoning hearing board solicitor, and I'll let you know how that goes. Because I think a lot of things have changed in how the zoning hearing board is conducted, and I don't know all of his thoughts.
Regarding future reporting, we don't need.
I don't think we need a motion. I think
He's nodding heads.
yeah, I see direction that we should do it from at least 3 of you. And again, it's going to be rather inelegant at the beginning and the end. You'll see one of us going in there, then on the camera, you'll see us sitting down. So it's gonna have a beginning and an end that is a bit different than the very highly orchestrated beginning and end that Mr. Yost had. But that's the price to pay.
We are paying, we're not paying for production quality, we're paying for the.
We don't need any Academy Awards.
Thank you for the discussion.
I think we should have a clip of Ollie for that.
Oh, he heard a thing.
Do I hear a motion to pay the bills for August
I
22, 29, and September 5 and 12?
Some,
I say.
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell.
yes,
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correspondence. We can read that. Commissioners, there's an issue here with accepting the resignation of Cherry Hand.
Yes, I'd like to say something, before the board accepts, his resignation. Terry Hand, has been associated with the township for many years. He was in fact in Mr. Rogoski's position as the township of road and storm sewer engineer for a time. And he's been on the planning commission many years. He's, a board member of First Nature. Unfortunately, he and his wife are moving to the Highlands, so they're going to the dark side, and why missing. But we have really enjoyed his time on the planning commission, and Patty and I are sorry to see him go, but I hope they, Bios on Dios, I hope they have a great time over there at the Highlands. So I'll miss his input into planning commission meetings.
and
If I could say something else too. When I contacted, Keith, because unfortunately he happened to be in Aruba last meeting, so he could not be here. So he did not, yeah, it was awful. So he could not be here, when Terry announced that he knew he was moving, because he didn't know when he was gonna be moving. So when I contacted him, to tell him, unfortunately, he already had, plans for tonight. He could not attend tonight's meeting. But, should he be appointed, he, said he was willing to accept. So I just wanted to make sure that he was even willing to be in that position before we put him in that position. So if that's what you decide, he, has agreed. He just couldn't be here tonight.
Okay, so if we need to make a motion to accept the resignation of Terry first?
Yeah.
Okay, I make the motion to accept the resignation of Terry Hand.
a second,
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
yes,
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
Thank you.
Keith, refresh my memory. Is he the mortgage broker or is he a realtor?
Yeah, he's a lender.
He's a lender, okay.
Okay, and how about a motion to consider the appointment of Keith Zilskowski?
I'll make a motion.
a second,
Mr. Donnell,
yes,
Mr. Bill Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Badger.
Yes.
Ms. Rao.
Yes.
And, for the board's information, then now there's now an opening for a third planning commission alternate. You are not required to appoint one, but that opening is now available.
anybody in the room want to be an alternate to planning commission?
But did you say that, Clancy Herr was still interested in that?
Clancy here is an alternate already. Yeah, he has attended one meeting, but yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the burden.
Right, so maybe, Kelsey, I'll let you pick it off with your investigation, what you found.
Sure, so, Greg asked me to look into the LRTA ordinance that approved, the LRTA for, the Route 10 property. That ordinance was enacted, it is ordinance 722, it was enacted February 15th of 2022. What that ordinance does, and I'll just take you through the procedure so you can understand. A municipality can, by ordinance, recognize certain areas or parcels within a township or any municipality as a deteriorated area. And that deteriorated area would then be eligible for a tax exemption under the LRTA program, which, as we know, is a tax escalation program that gives developers a tax break for 10 years. And escalates over the course of 10 years or de-escalates it, in order to try to bring in development to these deteriorated areas. So the first thing that happens is that ordinance gets passed for that specific area or parcel. That would require a public hearing, which in this case was held. That was held in February of 2022, and there are minutes that were published from that hearing. After that, the school districts within that municipality may also pass a resolution also recognizing that area as a deteriorated area that's eligible for tax exemption under LRTA. The district isn't required to follow the municipality, but oftentimes and most times they do. Developers are really, they would obviously like the school district exemption more because they, it's such a large amount and they save more money. But in this case, yes, the school district did so also in February of 2022. After the school districts passed their resolution, the county also passed a resolution doing the same thing. And they did that in March of 2022. Once those ordinances are passed, the taxpayer who owns property within that area or owns that parcel can then apply for a tax exemption pursuant to LRTA by an application itself once they are ready to make improvements to the property, because the LRTA only applies to the improvement to the property, not the land itself. So in this case, and Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that because there are no improvements having been started on this property, there has been no actual LRTA application filed with the township.
Correct.
So the ordinance has been passed, but no LRTA application has been filed and approved by the township, the district, or the county. So that's just to give you a baseline of where that property stands with respect to LRTA. And I think, Greg had a lot of questions about potentially rescinding the LRTA ordinance for that specific property on Route 10. And if you want to go through them, you can.
I'll kind of kick in here. So effectively what I said to Kelsey is given that there's, I'll call it a state of transition, if you will, with that property now with North Point moving out, there's potential exploration of the data center as people are aware now. I thought that it would be a good time now to start talking about whether we want to continue this possibility of already. Now, to Kelsey's point, the ordinance just gives somebody the ability to apply to get the tax relief, but if you don't have an ordinance, you can't apply. My thought process is, given the financial situation that we're in with big operating deficits we've been running for the last several years, we're not really in a financial position to offer tax relief, in my opinion, for development. So I think this would be a good time to do it, to kind of let anyone know that's coming in that we're not going to offer a tax relief on this property any longer. So my suggestion is that we revoke at this point for those reasons.
And, from a liability perspective, obviously, if there had been a developer for that property who applied for who filed a LRTA application with the township because they were ready to make improvements, and that LRTA application was accepted and the improvement started, and then you repeal the ordinance, that would be a huge problem because they would already have been grandfathered into not only the LRTA ordinance, but also their application having been accepted and already having been qualified for the tax exemption. With respect to repealing the ordinance or rescinding it prior to anyone having filed an application, I think there's less of an issue with any potential liability or chance of litigation because the developer doesn't even know what it's doing with the property yet. So it's not as though there's an application that has been accepted or is pending. So I think obviously your risk is reduced. I still think that with the very litigious nature of this property and everything that's been going on around it, potentially, yes, you could run into them trying to file something saying that they're entitled to alert because the ordinance had already been passed when they own the property. But that's obviously something that we did speak out in court.
Is this something, did the property owner ask for this order, or the developer, or that we did over?
Yes, the property owner asked for this LERTA at the time that they purchased the property and were looking for a developer to move into that space.
So to Kelsey's point, I mean, if you worst case scenario, and I don't know, I have my own opinions on whether or not we would get into further litigation. I don't know that anyone necessarily would want to get into further litigation. Whether or not it behoves them from a strategic standpoint to enter into further litigation is also probably not necessarily on their side. So it's probably best to examine it at this point. To Kelsey's point, it lowers the temperature maybe a little bit. Doesn't necessarily eliminate anything, but I think it makes it less likely that there's a problem.
I'm hearing there's potential for reduced. But the potential for reduction in liability.
So the board that had approved the LERTA ordinance for this property was not the same board, obviously, that sits here today. And if this board has a different opinion on whether they want to give tax rates and tax exemptions to deteriorated areas or not, then, that's a policy decision that this board needs to make. If they don't want that ordinance to be stuck to that parcel and have whoever ends up owning it, because it travels from owner to owner. The current owner of that parcel sold it to someone else right now, they could come and apply for the LERTA application exemption. If you don't want the exemption to stick to that parcel any longer, my recommendation would be to repeal the ordinance now instead of kind of waiting to see what application you get and then kind of denying it because you just don't want to claim.
Question there, Kelsey, is that hypothetical scenario of us denying it? I mean, I guess this is a stupid question because anyone can sue on for anything, but is just the act of us repealing it with the LERTA in place expose us and everything into greater liability or greater? Do we have greater exposure?
I think you need to make a decision based on the policy that you want in place now. If you're considering that you don't want anyone who owns that property, regardless of what they're putting in there, to have the LERTA exemption, then you should consider repealing it at this point. If that is what this board,
Sure.
this board policy is going to be.
That's fair. I think Greg's original point, given the climate of our operating expenses over the last several years from deficits, and I know there's some debate on what those deficits actually amount to, but deficits nonetheless. I think that coupled with the fact that at any point in time, if we decided we were more comfortable with giving tax relief, we can do so.
Yeah, you and any future board could decide, okay, we again see this as a deteriorated area, nothing has been improved there since, went through all of this. And now we want to make it into a LERTA area again. Any future board or even this current board can certainly do that.
There's no questions. I would just move through this and move.
So that if the board has a desire to repeal that ordinance, I would need to draft an ordinance repealing it. And then you would need to advertise that ordinance for the next meeting, I guess, if that's what you want to do, we could probably get it in on 30th, yeah, with advertising requirements.
Was this would it be like an all or none thing? Could you change it to a 2-year instead of a 10-year, or is it?
The statute has the 10-year length. I could look into whether that could be adjusted, but the 10-year exemption period is the standard. It's what we're doing.
Just the way I look at it is we need the money now. Like I wouldn't even wait 2 to 3 years at this point. Because our alternative is tax increase, basically. It seems a little contradictory to me to increase taxes while giving a tax break to a large corporation or something like that. Well, that's true.
Can we move? not, I don't want to get, if there's other questions, but could we move to conditionally approve your ordinance?
Well, you could authorize me to draft the ordinance repealing the LRTA, and you would still have to vote on enacting that ordinance at your next meeting, or just, you have to debate it and make a decision and.
You have to deal with the other word.
The ordinance, Kelsey would be drafting.
There would be an ordinance repealing the LRTA ordinance, so I would need to draft it, we need to advertise that repealing ordinance, and then you would have to vote on it at a public meeting.
And then we could
Which
do
is
that.
on 30th.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So we could do all that on the 30th, but formally reveal it then.
We could, I could get it advertised.
Well, irrespective of when it gets advertised, I would, unless there, and again, unless there's further deliberation we have, it doesn't sound like there is, I would move to authorize Kelsey to draft the ordinance and then we can deliberate on contents at a future date.
So just to be clear, you need draft and advertise, is that what the motion means?
Correct, any enactment of an ordinance requires advertisement, so I would just need to make sure I have enough time, I can try to get it advertised and in for the meeting on the 30th, I can let Dean and Patty know whether that's gonna happen, and if I can't, then I'll slate it for the October. Also.
What happens to the school district in the county?
That I don't know what they would do with it, I'm not sure. They could,
Doesn't the school get taken out?
well, actually, yeah, I think the school gets automatically removed. Too, but really the municipality is the driving force on whether it wants to consider that area, because it's in the municipality, the deteriorated area, so. Yeah, I believe that once that area is removed as a deteriorated area eligible for LRTA, I think the township and the county need to go along with it.
Well, I thought we had previously discussed that the county, and correct me if I'm wrong, the county act has an automatic, like a provision that it will automatically be rescinded if there's not improvements made for the plan.
Yeah, they're just 2 years. But I think, even if it wasn't, I think the county would probably.
I move to authorize Kelsey to draft and advertise
That's the motion.
the repeal ordinance.
Second.
From the peanut gallery back there that we've been sharing is, what is the definition of the deteriorated area? This is a natural royal conservation area.
I laughed at that characterization of it too.
And I'll read you the exact definition, Glenn, okay?
Yeah.
A deteriorated area means any industrial, commercial, or other business property owned by an individual, association, or corporation and located in the LRTA area, including without limitation, any such property which has been the subject of an order by a government agency requiring the unit to be vacated, condemned, or demolished by reason of non-compliance with laws, ordinances, or regulations. Deteriorated property is not intended to include any residential property, whether single or multi.
Yeah, so if hypothetically somebody took some plot of land that was zoned rural conservation and then changed the zoning to commercial, the owner of that commercial property hypothetically could argue that it was in a deteriorated state, even though it looks pristine the way God made it, and it has been for 1,000.
So we have a motion that Dave seconded, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Bill Miller,
No,
Mr. Greg Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Bachelor,
I'll wait that.
this is your motion.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Janelle,
Yes.
Ms. Rao,
Yes. Okay, I think that's, yeah, the discussion on the LRTA, unless anyone else has anything to ask.
Excuse me, so, as maybe folks aren't aware, but we're in the process now going through the economic development initiative. They're in the process of finalizing our plan, which will be out in November. They did come across a time-sensitive, recommendation that they have, excuse me, and this is the RCAP grant application. So what the recommendation from Delta is that, we submit it on I should say, they will submit on the township's behalf for a $2 million request for facade upgrades that can be used at any one of our shopping plazas. And you'll see on the agenda that what's mentioned is 2251 Lancaster Pike, which is the shopping center where Ollie's is. That's where they would target for the first part of it, but we have not talked to them yet. So they are able to go in and just actually put the blanket facade upgrades for shopping center in as the application. And for whatever reason, when we would get awarded this, we go back to them and they say, well, I don't want this money, or I don't want to go through this for whatever reason. We can then ask somebody else. And I think there's plenty of shopping centers in the area that would be interested in that kind of thing. So not necessarily worried about finding a taker per se. What I learned as part of this process is private entities can actually get this money. I always associate this program with governmental entities. You can do it as a private entity. And the unique part of this is that private entities don't have to put up matching funds. So there's a match associated with a municipal entity. If we wanted to take out $2 million for whatever, the infrastructure improvements for our building, we as a municipal entity will put out 50% of that. With a commercial entity, they have to get an appraisal done on their real estate. If their real estate is worth more than what they would need in terms of a match, so in this case, $1 million, they can use the value of their real estate as the match. They don't have to put up any money whatsoever. They effectively get $2 million. Now, they don't get it for free. What they do have to pay is the design and engineering costs as part of this. But that is a fraction of the $2 million. What it exactly will be, that I don't know. There's probably 5 figures to it, but it's not 7 figures. So they would be getting a good deal out of this. Just because we're applying for $2 million doesn't mean we'll be granted $2 million. That's the other disclaimer. But if you don't submit for anything, then you get nothing. And from a township's perspective, the only thing we have to put up is $500 fee. So they are asking, they are asking the township to pay the $500. They'll submit everything, and they'll manage the process that goes along with it as well.
So $500 for them to do the work of submitting, processing the application, for which we could get up to $2 million that we can hand to a private company as an investment in the township. And all they have to do is do the design work to get that up to $2 million.
They can pay for the design and engineering work, yeah.
Who makes a decision who gets it?
Well, we do.
Okay, what if you get more than one coming in?
What do you mean? You get more than one shot?
No, you have more than one, like requesting the use of these funds.
Well, that's potentially what could happen, sure, but we're going to drive it basically. So they're going to come with a series of recommendations. This is just their recommendation for this potential shopping center.
I mean, I mean, to your point, Dave, that's a good problem to have. If a bunch
It
of-
isn't, it isn't, it isn't. I think it's great, that, you know, we want to enhance business and develop the community, well, for sure, there's no doubt about that, because it's very needed. But it just looks like we're gonna be picking and choosing who's gonna get $2 million.
Well, that's just for this particular thing. So keep in mind, this is just their first
When you
recommendation.
got angry people now, you just turn down somebody comes with some of those funds and then they make
So,
the jilt and stuff.
The alternative is no one in the township gets $2 million. This is a potential investment of $2 million in a private company in our township.
Let's not lose track too. This is just the first recommendation. There's more recommendations coming for other places.
Well, we don't actually, asking our solicitor, we don't actually hold these funds. These funds are coming from a third party.
Coming from the state.
State, yeah, that's the third party.
A couple of things. Is Delta being paid out of the grant?
Delta being fair after that.
Yes, because have hours, they have a certain amount of their staff time paid doing the application. Are they being paid out of the grant? Which is not a bad thing. That's very common for grants, but have they talked about that?
They're covering it out of our fee, so we're paying for them.
We already paid them what we were contracted.
That's correct.
Okay.
So they're paid.
Just for the public's information, with these RACT grants, it is recommended, we've talked in the past with, the Berkshire Redevelopment Authority, that it is recommended to have a third-party manager of these grants. These are very difficult grants to manage. So whether it would be Delta or another entity like Berks Redevelopment Authority, it is definitely recommended that a third-party consultant deal with this type of grant. This type of grant has some really specialized requirements that frankly, no one on staff has the experience, including myself, or the time. So I would recommend if you're going to apply for an RACP grant to have a third party do it.
It doesn't always lease the building from a developer from New Jersey.
Oh, yes. So it more directly in response to Dave's comment. No matter which property is involved, the owners may or may not cooperate. The owners may or may not insert poison pills that take themselves out of being a good recipient of these funds. And that's another reason you want a third party involved. Many residents may recall that where the Ollie's is, the old Pathmark / Giant store remained vacant for many years. That was because the property owner had an agreement with Giant that Giant paid the rent on that building for 10 years after Giant vacated the building and of course, if you're the property owner, you're getting free money. You don't have to do a darn thing to the property and you're getting money every month. Sounds like a good deal to me because Giant did not want any grocery store competition moving in there when they built their new store in Lancaster Avenue. They did the same thing in Exeter Township with that Giant, which has since been demolished. So where I'm going with this is that you never know what you're going to run into when approaching the property owners because there are layers of property owners, there are other agreements that they may have in the background. I'm glad that it's not just based on your email. That's why I put 2251 Lancaster type in if that's the hours part. So I'm glad that they're being more flexible. But I wanted to point out that you do need for one of these grants a third party administrator.
Makes sense to me. I don't think that's anything. Experience, but I would move to
Do we need two separate motions here, one for the fee, one for the,
No, I think they could be together. Yeah,
you know, I would move to authorize township to pay the development $500, but you have to pay the $500 application fee for the grant and authorize Delta development. So,
sorry,
Mr. Gregor,
yes.
Ms. Baddour,
Yes.
Mr. Donnell,
yes.
Mr. Bill Miller,
No,
Ms. Rao.
Yes. Okay, next we have an executive session.
Okay, for the minutes, we did just have an executive session to discuss several matters of litigation, collective bargaining matter, and a personnel issue, all of which are listed on the agenda. And there's no action that's going to be taken on any of those items tonight.
So we have left is the reminders. For
So there's no action,
No action.
there's no action, none.
No official action.
Commissioners meetings for September and October. September 30th at 7 p.m. That's the fifth Tuesday meeting. October 21st at 7 p.m. is a regular meeting. Also, a planning commission meeting, October 6th at 6 p.m. and municipal authority, October 9th at 8:30 a.m. Township Administration Office will be closed Monday, October 13th for the Columbus Day holiday. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.